Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. This time we're taking a trip back to the late Jurassic period, about 150 million years ago. We're going to be looking at a new dinosaur discovery.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, it's from Fujian province in China. You ready to put on your paleontologist hat?
I am. I've got my metaphorical hat and my metaphorical shovel ready.
Perfect. So the dinosaur is called Fujinvenator prodigiosus.
Fujinvenator prodigiosus. That's a mouthful.
Yeah, it is. But it means Fujian prodigy hunter. And this is the first dinosaur fossil unearthed in this region of China.
Wow, really? So this is totally new territory for paleontologists then.
Pretty much. And what makes this discovery even more exciting is that Fujinvenator has some really unique features that are making scientists rethink what we know about dinosaur locomotion and the evolution of early birds.
Okay, now you've really got my attention. What's so special about this Fujian prodigy hunter?
Well, for starters, it's got legs that are unlike anything we've ever seen before in a dinosaur or early bird.
Okay, I'm picturing a dinosaur, but I need you to elaborate on the legs. What's going on there?
Imagine this. You have a bird-like dinosaur, but its lower legs, the tibia, are twice as long as its thigh bones, the femur.
Hold on. So its lower legs are longer than its thighs.
Way longer.
That sounds really weird, like almost out of proportion.
Exactly. And that's what's making paleontologists so excited, because this kind of leg structure just doesn't fit with what we typically see in dinosaurs, especially those closely related to birds. It raises a ton of questions about how this dinosaur moved and what kind of environment it was adapted to.
Okay, yeah. I'm starting to see why this is such a big deal. So what are the theories? What do scientists think these super long legs were used for?
Well, there are a couple of main hypotheses floating around. One is that Fujinvenator was a super speedy runner. Those long legs would have given it an incredible stride length, allowing it to cover ground quickly. Maybe it was chasing down prey or escaping predators.
I could see that, like a prehistoric roadrunner.
Exactly. But there's another intriguing possibility. Some scientists think that Fujinvenator might have been a wader. Like a heron or a crane.
Wait, so this dinosaur with crazy long legs might have been hanging out in the water?
Maybe. If you compare its leg proportions to those of modern wading birds, there's some striking similarities, and those long legs would have been perfect for navigating shallow water.
Okay, hold on. I need to wrap my head around this. We've got this bird-like dinosaur with uniquely long legs, and it could have been either a speed demon on land or a graceful wader in the water.
You got it. And the really cool thing is that it could have been both. Maybe Fujinvenator was adapted to living in an environment where it needed to be able to run and wade, exploiting different resources and habitats.
Wow, that is super cool. So how do scientists even begin to figure out which hypothesis is more likely? What kind of evidence are they looking at?
Well, it all starts with the fossils, of course. And in the case of Fujinvenator, we're lucky enough to have some pretty well-preserved bones, including parts of its legs, hips, and skull. And what's even more exciting is that Fujinvenator was found alongside a whole bunch of other fossils from the same time period.
So they weren't just hanging out solo back then.
Nope, they were part of a newly discovered fossil assemblage called the Zhenhe fauna. And this fauna is giving us a whole new window into the ecosystem that existed in this part of China during the late Jurassic. Think early mammals, turtles, salamanders, even pterosaurs soaring through the skies.
It sounds like a pretty wild place. So Fujinvenator was just one player in this ancient drama.
Right. And by studying all of these fossils together, scientists are hoping to get a better understanding of the environment that Fujinvenator lived in and how it might have interacted with other species.
I can already tell this deep dive is going to be a good one. I'm ready to learn more about this amazing dinosaur and its prehistoric world.
Me too.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to share all of the latest research and insights with you. But first, let's take a closer look at those incredible legs and see what we can learn from their unique structure.
Okay, so let's get back to those legs. We talked about how the Fujinvenator's lower legs were way longer than its thighs. That's pretty unusual, right?
Definitely. And scientists think that this unique leg structure could be a big clue to how Fujinvenator got around.
So, like, its mode of transportation, was it running, walking?
Exactly. And the first theory we talked about was that Fujinvenator was a fast runner.
Right, the prehistoric roadrunner idea.
Yeah. Those long legs would have given it a huge advantage in terms of speed and agility.
But I remember you saying something about long legs maybe not being so great for stability, especially if you need to make quick turns or dodge obstacles.
That's a good point. You'd think that having those long, skinny legs might make you a little bit top-heavy.
Exactly. And less able to quickly change direction.
But remember, we had to look at the whole skeletal structure, not just the legs.
Oh, right. So what else do we know about the Fujinvenator's anatomy?
Well, based on the fossils we have, it seems like Fujinvenator was pretty lightweight. And it had a long tail, too.
I can see where you're going with this. A counterbalance.
You got it. That tail probably acted as a counterbalance, helping to keep it stable, even when it was running at high speeds. And being lightweight would help with speed and agility, too, of course.
Okay, so long legs for speed, long tail for balance. Makes sense.
And here's another interesting tidbit. When scientists compared Fujinvenator's leg proportions to those of modern birds.
Hold on. Birds, but we were just talking about dinosaurs.
I know. But remember, birds are descended from dinosaurs, so it makes sense to compare their anatomy.
Right, of course. So what did they find when they compared the Fujinvenator to birds?
Well, it turns out that Fujinvenator's legs were actually even more elongated than those of many terrestrial birds.
Seriously. More elongated than birds.
Yep. Which kind of surprised the scientists, too, because you'd think that birds, the masters of flight, would have the most extreme adaptations for running.
You'd think so, right? But I guess evolution works in mysterious ways. So what's the takeaway from all of this?
Well, it seems like Fujinvenator was really pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible for dinosaur locomotion.
Hmm.
Its leg structure is unique, even compared to birds. And that tells us that there's still so much we don't know about how dinosaurs moved and evolved.
This is so cool. I'm already hooked. But what about the weighting hypothesis? We can't just leave that hanging.
You're right, we can't. So let's dive into the evidence for that.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Okay, so remember we talked about how Fujinvenator's long legs were similar in proportion to those of modern wading birds.
Yeah, like those herons and cranes that hang out in marshes and stuff.
Exactly. But there are other clues that suggest Fujinvenator might have been comfortable in the water. For one thing, its feet were pretty slender and lacked the strong claws we typically see in terrestrial predators.
Interesting. So maybe not great for digging into the ground for traction while running.
Right. Those feet might have been better suited for navigating soft, muddy substrates like you'd find in a marsh or along a shoreline. Think about it. If you're wading through water, you don't need those big, strong claws for gripping.
That makes sense. It's all about adapting to your environment.
And then there's the overall body plan. Fujinvenator had a pretty short torso and a long neck.
Okay, I'm visualizing this. Short body, long neck, long legs, kind of like a giraffe, but more bird-like.
Exactly. And that body type would have given it a low center of gravity, which would be super helpful for stability while wading.
Okay, now that you mention it, it's starting to sound pretty plausible that this thing could have spent some time in the water. Long legs for wading, slender feet for those soft, muddy bottoms, and a low center of gravity for balance.
It's all adding up, isn't it? But there's one thing that's still a bit of a mystery.
Oh, what's that?
Webbed feet. We know that a lot of wading birds today have webbed feet to help them move through the water.
Right, it's like having built-in paddles.
Exactly. But unfortunately, the fossil record isn't always perfect. And we haven't found any evidence of soft tissues, like skin or webbing, associated with the Fujinvenator fossils.
Oh, man, that's too bad. So we don't know for sure if it had webbed feet or not.
Not yet, anyway. It's possible that future discoveries might give us more clues. But even if it didn't have webbed feet, there are other ways it could have moved through water efficiently.
Okay, so what are we talking about here? How else could it have gotten around in the water?
Well, maybe it used those long toes to push off the bottom. Or maybe it even used its tail for balance and propulsion, kind of like modern crocodilians do.
Ooh, I like that. A dinosaur using its tail like a rudder. That's a pretty cool image.
So it sounds like we've got a lot of possibilities here,
Okay.
but not all the answers.
That's the nature of paleontology, isn't it? It's like solving a puzzle, but some of the pieces are missing.
And sometimes the pieces we do have don't quite fit together the way we thought they would. Exactly. But that's what makes it so exciting. There's always something new to discover, always another mystery to solve.
It's really amazing how much one fossil can shake up what we thought we knew. You know, about dinosaur evolution. This Fujinvenator is like looking through a keyhole into a whole new world.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It just goes to show that evolution doesn't always follow a straight line. Like, we used to think that birds evolved from tree-dwelling dinosaurs, and it was a pretty simple story.
Yeah. Climb, glide, flap, fly. But Fujinvenator is kind of throwing a wrench in that narrative.
It's like, hey, wait a minute. Things might have been a lot more complicated and interesting than we thought. And Fujinvenator is like a poster child for that. It's this weird, unique creature that doesn't really fit into our neat little boxes.
Totally. And it just makes you realize how much we still don't know about the past and all the crazy creatures that roamed the Earth millions of years ago.
So where does Fujinvenator fit into this big picture of avian evolution? Does it completely change everything?
Well, maybe not completely change everything, but it definitely adds to this growing pile of evidence that the evolution of birds from dinosaurs was a lot more complex than we used to think. It wasn't just one straight line from point A to point B.
More like a branching tree with lots of different experiments going on.
Exactly. All these different lineages of dinosaurs were trying out different adaptations, different lifestyles, and Fujinvenator, with its potential for both running and wading, is a perfect example of that.
It's almost like evolution was just playing around seeing what worked. And sometimes those experiments led to some pretty incredible creatures.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, what other weird and amazing creatures are still out there waiting to be discovered? What else is hidden in the fossil record?
I don't know, but I can't wait to find out. It just shows that paleontology is a never-ending adventure, always another mystery to uncover.
Absolutely. And it's not just about digging up old bones. It's about understanding the history of life on Earth. How did we get here? What were the forces that shaped the planet and all the creatures that lived on it?
So the next time you see a bird flying overhead, just think, that bird is the result of millions of years of evolution, of trial and error, of incredible adaptations. And somewhere along that evolutionary journey, there might have been a creature that looked a lot like Fujinvenator, running along the shorelines or wading through shallow waters.
It's mind-blowing when you think about it that way.
It really is. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. We've explored the unique features of Fujinvenator, talked about its possible lifestyles, and considered how it fits into the grand scheme of dinosaur evolution. And hopefully we've sparked some curiosity about the amazing world of paleontology. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.